Hey everybody, I'm Nathan Fouts, aka Mom's Best Games, and I've been working on the camera for my newest game, ChainStaff. So, ChainStaff is an action-adventure game. Now don't say Metroidvania. I don't want the Metroidvania police to come after me.
It's really more like a very big Mega Man X in that you can pick levels to play, but there's branching levels, secrets, and special upgrades to unlock new levels. And while it is a run-and-gun shooting action game, it is also a 2D platformer. And if it's a 2D platformer, that means it needs a good camera. I try to do a lot of interesting things with the camera. For one, I like to do giant zoom outs in this game. And there's a really nice one at the beginning of level 2 when you fight a creature called the Jet Dragon. And I wanted to make it epic. So it starts way zoomed out, all the way zoomed out. So your dude is tiny and you feel insignificant. And there's a huge monster in a giant bridge. So what's cool is there's special code that I use for this to do a dynamic zoom. So it tracks the player, it tracks the dragon. And the closer you get, the camera starts to zoom in. And you can see the detail on the dragon and you can feel the size getting bigger and it's more intense, the action. If you run away, the camera actually zooms out. And I use it dynamic zoom sometimes in the game, but there's a couple special cases there where we try to get these huge vistas. Also, at the beginning of each level, I like to zoom very far away too, and let the camera just kind of sit there so you can kind of take in this really nice new vista for this new level. All the new art, you really get to see it. And then once you pick up, the camera moves along with you, and it zooms in on you. I hate fighting with a camera in a platforming game, whether it's 2D or 3D. So something I think that 2D games sometimes get wrong with their camera is they attach the camera directly to the player and let the camera move even when it doesn't need to, and it's very distracting. It makes it harder for the player to track what's happening. So I learned about this issue from Super Mario World. And I played Super Mario World back in the day when I was a kid, when it first came out, and I loved it. Didn't even know what was happening, just thought it was an awesome game. But I found a really nice video, and I've linked it down below, and it breaks down how the camera works in Super Mario World. And I love the camera in that game because it doesn't need to move when you don't need it to. It just focuses on the action. And they specifically, Shigeru Miyamoto and his team, worked to make sure that camera focuses on the action and not just following the player naively. So you've probably seen a window used before, this concept of a window where once the player moves outside of the camera area, then the camera will start to track the player. That works best on a slow character game like Mario, because you're usually pretty slow. But in ChainStaff, because it's a shooting game, and I want you to see the left and the right equally, because the monster's coming from both sides, I did not go with a very big window in this game. So it follows you pretty closely when you move left to right. But what I did take was the vertical motion and platform snapping that Super Mario World invented. The basic idea is if you have any vertical movement in your platformer level, wait to move the camera up until the player has landed on a platform. And this is the platform snapping in Super Mario World. So don't constantly follow the player's jump up and down. If you jump up and down and move the camera, now you can't see the ground beneath you. I mean, look at this. Every time you're jumping up, you're losing what's below you. And to what end? Sure, you can see a little bit up and down, but you can't see where you're trying to land. And worse yet, if you're a platformer with enemies all over the place, you can't see the enemies below you. It makes it harder to track everything. So the way the logic in the camera works here is once the player lands on a platform and it's solid, then the camera can move up to that new position. Now, if the player is falling down, and they fall down below that window and go past the middle, typically, of the camera, then you're going to want to follow them as they go too. And as soon as the camera moves below that point, follow them down. But basically, if you take the time to add this little bit of code to your platformer, it allows for the player to make these micro adjustments because they have a nice, clean view of the scene, and they can see where they're trying to jump to rather than having the camera spaz out. Very important in a platforming style game to keep the camera still if you can. And I do have a special case in ChainStaff which was swinging left to right. So initially, I did have it as simple as it was that the camera would focus on the player when you swung left and right. And in the game, what happens is basically when you jump and then press the ChainStaff button, it launches the grapple forward, attaches to a new point in the ceiling, and then you're allowed to swing back and forth. And you can control the motion of this. You can swing left and right. Well, what would happen is the camera is now attached to the player also swinging left and right. And it feels super spazzy, and you run into the same problems you had before, which was you're seeing the platform, you're not seeing the platform, you're seeing the platform, you're not seeing the platform. My solution is as soon as you jump and attach with the ChainStaff, the new attach point is now the x-axis focus. That's where the camera moves over and focuses on. And it allows the player to swing left and right, and keep the camera nice and stable. And then when you jump, it picks up right to follow you as you sail through the air and catch up with you. But here you can see the differences, and just like check out how spazzy this is. Personally, I would really like the camera to be nice and stable, and so I can plan where my next jumping point is going to be.
So those are a few of my special camera tricks that I'm using in ChainStaff. Down in the comments, let me know what game, specifically a 2D platformer, but what game do you think had a really good camera? Like you didn't even notice, or it was doing something complex. Let me know some platformers and Metroidvanias that you really liked that did a good job with the camera. I'm going to keep working on ChainStaff. You guys keep playing games, and I'll talk to you later.